So before I start, you know what the most frightening thing about being here today is? There's about 5 people in this room that I've known for at least 25 years. So what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about, everybody knows who Kuehne Nagel is, first of all? Very good. I want to talk a little bit about what is happening actually in the air freight world, or in the world of freight today. 25 years is a long time to have been in the industry. I worked for Lufthansa Cargo for 20 years. I know air freight. It's kind of in my blood. A lot has changed. So I want to talk a little bit about what that is and then a little bit about Kuehne Nagel. So all this stuff that our customers expect from us, right? They want to know, they have the supply chain from here, from order all the way to cash, and they expect the 3PLs of the world, the 3.5, the 4PLs, probably soon the 6PLs, to manage all these things. And air freight has a place here. And the question is, where does air freight have a place? So we try to talk to our customers about where the role of air freight is in the supply chain. So typically, if somebody has a good plan, they're able to plan their demand, they're able to plan their customers' demand, they have a forecast, maybe they even plan air freight. But we also know that air freight is also the result of a chaotic planning, a last minute, an emergency, if we're quite honest. So the other thing is, it's not just the supply chain that needs to be managed differently. Everybody came through 2009. Very difficult year economically, also in the industry, very, very tough. But again, the world is changing in many, many ways, and we have to be very acutely aware of what is changing in order to manage our customers' requirements. Their customers are changing fundamentally everywhere. The way they order, the way they manage their customers, the entire downstream process has fundamentally changed. We know the term sustainability appears more and more in our vocabulary. We actually need to figure out what that really means in our industry and how we're going to manage it and how we can drive productivity and value by managing that piece of it. New technologies, it's been mentioned by everybody. I'll go a little bit more into detail on what that really means. To a large degree, our industry has stayed a little bit behind. We have to now move in the next direction. Regulatory, I think it hasn't been mentioned yet. Achim mentioned security, but it goes way beyond security. It goes into the whole area of code of conduct, compliance, FCPA. The whole world is changing fundamentally when it comes to that, besides what the normal basic compliance aspects our customers expect from us. So what else is happening? The world is also changing. It was mentioned this morning in the speech. It was brick. It's now bricks. So volumes are changing to emerging markets. The definition of an emerging market is changing fundamentally. There are trade corridors that we don't even know today or understand today between Asia and Africa, Asia and South America, certainly within Asia. That's pretty clear, the biggest market in the world. And a lot of the 3PLs and also the partners that we use have to make sure that we have the proper global reach, that we understand the way the market is developing, and we plan that along with our partners. I think it was also mentioned by this gentleman this morning. We see a lot of shifting now. I was in Asia 3 weeks ago. You see more and more manufacturing being shifted inland into China and more going out of China. So we need to understand how to deal with that. We're fundamentally changing our infrastructure. UPS knows it very well. China, we're building 27 offices in the next, but that also has to be very carefully managed. So some of this was mentioned. I'll go quickly through it. There are certain products that lend themselves to air freight, certainly pharmaceuticals. The pharmaceutical companies, I don't have to tell you, have very, very clear and strict demands regarding temperature tracking, more and more database recording movement. Our fast-moving consumer goods customers are going more and more into a collaborative environment. So they don't just want visibility. They want it across the different companies. If there's somebody buying the stuff, they want it from the FMCG company. They want it from everybody involved in the chain. We need to understand that. And partners need to be willing to share information. Otherwise, we'll never get there. E-commerce, in air freight, in forwarding, e-commerce is a relatively new world. Some things are done, but in the heavy freight market, it's actually not done to a very large extent. new types of storefronts, new ways of processing orders, new ways of buying. These things are all coming. And obviously more and more risk management and forecasting tools that allow for planning, but also allow management of compliance in a more real and fundamental way. So some of you may have seen this. The biggest single challenge that customers, manufacturers, and users, whatever you want to call them, is demand volatility and or poor forecast accuracy. It affects you, it affects the planners, it affects the customers, it affects the airlines. Then lack of visibility to current market demand, very similar. Increasingly demanding customers, no big surprise. I think everybody in this room, again, I've been here 25 years, it's fundamentally changed the way our customers are behaving and the expectations they have of us. I talk to customers, product and supply chain have challenges talking to each other in a way that makes sense so they can manage the first couple of graphs here. It's a challenge for everyone. And more obviously focus on cash flow and margin. But which part of the cash flow and margin is always the question. Is it in the front end of the supply chain or the back end of is it in the planning part or in the execution and transportation part? We need to be acutely aware and have those discussions with our clients about what it really means to manage that piece. Poor supplier performance kind of bothers me, but it's there. We heard it, 6 days on average. Is that enough? Is that good enough? Are people willing to pay for express services? If so, why? All of these types of questions. So here's the top 5. Emerging markets and new trade lanes are driving logistics growth. We need to know where they are, what it really means for us. Technological advances enable improved supply chain visibility. We've talked about it, but it's beyond the borders of the carrier. It's all through the chain. The outsourcing market becomes more and more important in every sense of the word. Collaborative physical logistics, one of my personal favorite topics, a lot of big words. What that means is customers themselves are looking at shared environments when it comes to distribution hubs, different ways of doing their business to create synergies. Not two warehouses, 2 companies, maybe 1 warehouse, 2 companies. And obviously sustainable logistics solutions, I say this openly, whatever that actually means. I think we have to define that for ourselves first. So what do our customers really want? It's simple. Or is it? I don't know. It's simple. Obviously, they want competitive advantage over their competition. That's clear. We can do that. Air freight can do that for them. We have to talk about how. They need to be able to plan their supply chains. They need to understand what the cost is, the indirect costs in their supply chains. They need to plan air freight. They need to plan sea freight. They need to plan distribution in a way that they understand. Very often they want performance, obviously, but they want predictability and stability now more and more. Consolidating forwarder bases, consolidating partner bases, creating efficiency through doing all of that. Obviously they want their performance proven, not just we're saying we're doing something, but it has to be measured. Total compliance, nothing less. When you deal with companies that are in the oil and gas world and some others, there is absolutely no option. Total visibility, now what does that mean? That means they want landed cost. That means they need to give us information about what they're spending so we understand what their landed cost situation is. It's one of the #1 things that customers tell us, but very few people provide it. Obviously, they expect some efficiency, so a joint drive, meaning with us, with their customers, with their airlines, with the base, some kind of a drive towards a productivity and value increase across the chain. It's the only way they will be successful. Fair value price relationship, obviously, and then flexibility, and that's one of the beauties of air freight. There is flexibility inherent in it. If somebody has a sea freight shipment, a planner has a milestone to a customer, then air freight offers the flexibility to still make that milestone and satisfy that customer, satisfy that production demand, or whatever it may be. So very quickly about KN. So we try to have answers for these. It's really based on the market conditions and the customers. Many people think KN is a sea freight forwarder. We are the biggest one, but we're also the top 3 in air freight. So general services, you talk about flexibility. Of course, air freight, there's a consolidated offer. There's a charter offer. And one of the main things we talked about it as far as the customers, really the predictability and performance aspect is the most important part of the air freight product. If you're going to pay for air freight, you want to perform. And you need to be able to measure that, so we do that over Cargo 2000. So a lot of things we hear also from our clients. What else is it? Well, billing's not always that easy. It's not always, varying charges, no transparency of destination charges, long response time on requests for pricing, no commitment, no responsibility taken by the forwarder. These are things directly from our customers. Data quality, reliability, again, back to the technological aspect, and visibility. So based on that, there's a range of products that answers that on Express. So that talks about the speed aspect, the Express aspect, and certain aspects of visibility. Along the lines of that, and talking about the flexibility aspect of it, other programs and products that are specific to specific sectors of the air freight market. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming.